Hello, and welcome to another thrilling edition of Gauntlet's Race Mod. We have another ship set, another race done. Today we are dealing with the Veygar Hordes, and there you go, that's them on the right. And here, let's go to the report actually. So the Veygar are my nomadic, sort of ruffian race of warriors, if you will. I kind of think of them as like the Mongol invaders of ancient times. So very nomadic, and they've been in space a long time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're very advanced. If you look at their abilities, you've got, I mean, I min-max abilities quite a bit. Not always to just like make things overpowered, but just to give them a lot of character. So these guys stink at trade, they're bad farmers, they're unpopular, they are a little infertile. These are all a result of their culture and the fact that they really don't know how to live on planets, and it's only recently that they've been united by one leader and have settled down on a planet to build a sort of empire. So they've been in space a long time, so they do focus on ships. They have max toughness, they're accurate, they're militant, they're dense. They're also good at conquest in general, so they're brutal. Their ships are also agile. They've got max adventuresome. Oh, and of course they're unlikable. They're a little fast. They're a little organized. So, I mean, these guys have great ships, but are really suffering on all the niceties that you really kind of want for an empire. And fertile in general is pretty bad, and combining that with poor farmers is, yeah, that's not helping. No one really cares about tourism, I think, so, I mean, that's an easy one to just drop to get some points. And unlikable doesn't make you any friends, right? So, yeah. Um, the ideology here says pragmatic. I'm debating that. They probably should be malevolent. So, there we go. Alrighty, to the ships. Now, the Veygar have had a video before, so some of these are old. And to be frank, you know, there's only so many models in this set, but we did flesh it out. So let's start with the Tiny. Here we go. Here's a probe. Very probe-like. Pretty basic. Then we have the Fighter. This is one of my absolute favorite fighters. I talked about it during the last video with the Turns, because they use these as like sort of mercenaries. But yeah, I really love this fighter. I think it's one of my best. The asymmetry really works on this one, I think. And it doesn't look human, if you will. It doesn't look like a human fighter, really, but it still looks techy and not like too put together, if you will. Yep, so there we go. Those are it for the tinies. For the smalls, for a balanced small, we're using a wing of the fighter. Then we have a kinetic. I call smalls corvettes, so that's what this is called. And that big red glowy thing in the middle there, that's what we're using for kinetics on this race. Then we've got a beam. Uses those sort of prongs we saw on the fighter, but this time there's two of them. Then we've got a missile. Oops, sorry. This is actually the Explorer. So there you go. It's an Explorer. You're going to see this sort of front piece repeatedly used in different angles to represent different parts on a ship. It's often going to be used on the front, so you'll see that more in a moment. Here's the missile. So yep, very simple. We're using plain missile pods for the missile weapons on these guys. Okay, that's the smalls. We'll move on to cargos. Here is your standard civilian cargo ship. So this is freighters and colony ships. And again, here's that nose piece again that I mentioned. Pretty happy with how the cargo ships came out, actually. I really like that design. These guys have this sort of like rhinoceros feel going for them, which I think is kind of cool. Here you go. Here's a constructor. Very simple, same model, just put on some construction pods. Then we have our drone carrier. Now this one differs in that some of the colors are different, and we've added a command section. You're going to see that a lot on every ship from here on out, I think. And you know, it's got some sensor arrays and a little rotating foil, if you will. It's got a fighter flying, and this thing is carrying 6 fighters. We're using this sort of floaty hover dock system here. So the ships are barely staying with it. They're just kind of hovering off of it. So yep, I think that one's got a nice profile. Okay, and then the transport. Now the transport is a lot more red to help it stand out. It's got a missile launcher in front, and then we have an extra engine here on the bottom. And of course these things on the side, what the heck are those? Well, they're not drop pods, though I would probably design something very similar for drop pods in the future for somebody else. But these are actually drill bombs. So I tried to do something special for every race's transport. Usually involves dropping rocks, but I got sick of dropping rocks and I wanted something special. So these guys have this weird drop pod-like contraption with this laser thing that's twisting in and out in these claws. And the idea here is that they drop this into atmosphere, it crashes into a planet, and as it does so, it's lasering into the planet and causing all sorts of tectonic activity as it does, causing earthquakes and general destruction. That's one interpretation. You could also interpret these as just orbit to ground lasers. These are just individual satellites, so maybe this ship just flies into orbit, deploys these satellites, which are then lasering specific targets from space, and then maybe later retrieved once they're done. So there's a couple of different ways you can interpret these. I think they're a neat piece, and they do the job. Okay, so that's your cargoes. Moving on to mediums, we will start with our balanced destroyer. Sorry, this is the beam destroyer, actually. So we've got this weird array in the front, which is kind of meant to be like a lightning cannon, and then our beam turret there. There we go, good angle. There's one on the bottom, too. And you can see they've got this big glowy bit thing going on that's clearly powering the lightning generators, if you will. This destroyer came out pretty well. I'm really liking it. It's very unique. The angles are interesting. Alright, then we have the balanced one, the one I wanted to show you first. This was originally inspired by the Veygar, where see sort of Veygar, I know, not very creative, from Homeworld 2. They have a missile destroyer that looks very similar to this, and that's what I based it off of. And then the set kind of morphed from there. So yep, big missile system on the right, 2 kinetic turrets, and a lightning generator. Okay. Then we've got our full-blown kinetic destroyer. Kind of this weird snub nose effect going on here. Yeah, it's a weird ship. It's got a neat profile, though. I like it. I'm not certain I like the size of the turrets on this guy, but they're the same size as I put them on the other destroyers, where I do like it, so I guess we're keeping it, but this thing looks a little top-heavy, if you will. But hey, it's space. Things don't sink. Alright, and here's the survey ship. It's that same hull. I actually made the survey ship first. Without the turrets, I think it looks great. And the command deck is receded into the back, so I like it overall. It does have 1 missile array on the side there, and otherwise it has scanning gear. And on the other side, it has a docking array with 3 of our probes, just ready to go off and survey and stuff, right? So there you go. Okay, and that is the... Did we do the missile destroyer? Well, here's the missile destroyer. It just has 2 of those giant pods. Okay. Larges. Let's go to the large. The large starts with the kinetic here. This was the first one. This was in the original video. Again, you got that sort of rhino layout going on. Lots of turrets. Then you've got the beam variant, just replaces the turrets with beams. Then we've got a balanced variety, which has a mix for the turrets, as well as 2 really big missile pods. Thump thump. The missile version, of course, same thing, just loses a couple of turrets and adds a 3rd missile pod. Alright, then we've got our carrier, which carries 12 fighters. You got that same array format. Has 1 turret, slightly different layout than the other larges. Yep, quite happy with it. Came out well. And then finally the support craft, which is the same model, just got some radar dishes and some sensors put on, and no turrets or anything. There you go. That's the largest. Alright, and up last is the huge. First up, for a balanced, I did 3 destroyers in a pack. So quite happy with this. I'm using that on the pirate set as well, so you've seen this before. But there you go. These guys definitely have that as well. Then you've got the huge. I think I would call this the behemoth, because it's just gigantic. And it's got a good turret layout. Like 9 turrets all laid out so that you can get hit by everything. And only 1 turret in the back. Big engine format. And this really interesting profile. Very vertical, but also horizontal. I definitely like it. I think it works well with these guys. Got that missile battery in the front. Okay. The beam version, like before, just replaces the turrets with beams. No biggie. Then we've got our missile one. This one we did change up the hull a bit. More straightforward. And it's literally like a giant shotgun of missiles here. You've got 6 giant missile batteries, but otherwise this thing is unarmed. Okay, and then the carrier used that basic framework, but this one does have a couple of lasers. And instead of those missile pods surrounding it, you've got fighter bays. 6 of them, so I think this is carrying 18 fighters. Of course, you got 4 of them in flight. There you go. So that is the Veygar. They were fun to do. I needed to flesh these guys out, so we added those laser turrets. Really, the most new work being put into this set was the addition of the corvettes, as well as really figuring out carriers. For these guys, the new carrier style, and then the transport was fun, and making sure we got those like drill pods going was really cool. So yep, very happy with the set. It's a little repetitive, but hey, can't really be avoided if I'm gonna continue and getting work done. I am on a schedule here. Next up are the Zurhan, who are very, very vertical in style. They need a lot of work as well, just like these guys did. And then that will be 7 sets. And the only things left will be, of the original 9, will be the sort of like robo-bugs and the organic squid things. I'm struggling with them because really it's going to be hard to differentiate weapons on those guys. And I'm not certain it's really necessary to make so many variants for them. That could just be laziness speaking, but I'm also getting sick of rebuilding and fleshing out sets I've already really done the bulk of the work on, and, you know, I just will want to design some new ships. So, we'll see. I might cut them from the first release and save them for a second release of novelty ships, because they're kind of weird. They're not very ship-like. One set is bugs, one set is squids, and then I could start working on a set where the ships are really crystals, and while these sets would have less variety compared to these other ones, less full variants, it would be a lot faster to get them done. They would have at least 1 model per size, and we could go from there. And since they're kind of novelty sets anyways, I think that maybe makes sense, so we'll see. But we are definitely getting closer, well past the halfway mark on the first set. I'm waiting to hear about news for, version 1.1. But if it looks like version 1.1 is not going to happen by July, I might do a pre-release of this. So we'll see. All right, thanks guys. Have a good day.